Okay, I'm recording already.
Oh, sorry.
Hi. No, you're fine. How are you? Where are you?
I'm in my partner's office, which is in east side of Amsterdam. And I'm over winter. That is definitely official now. I am over winter.
So what are you working on at the moment?
Right now I'm in a bit of a pivotal stage where I'm really trying to prioritize my fiction and my books. And the latest book came out last week. And that has been, I've had to learn a lot in order to get there. And I'm learning a lot now it's happened. And I think we spoke just when COVID kicked off the first season. What season are we now? I don't even know.
We're in like the reboots now, aren't we?
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely due like a plot twist or a good love interest at this stage. Then I was like, everything was going really well with travel blogging and travel freelance writing until COVID hit. And I think it took me quite a while to realize that this is not going to back to normal in, quotation marks. It's not going to go back to normal for a long time. And in some ways, Lucy, that was a good thing for me. It actually gave me a bit of a kick up the bum to prioritize what I enjoy doing most. So about a year ago, I just sort of like figured out that it's now or never with the fiction, and I've just got to bloody go for it. And sorry, can I swear? Sorry, I should have asked
of course
that.
You can. So to wind things back, obviously there'll be a link to our previous episode, but I think maybe you've been on twice actually. I can't remember.
No, I think that was my first time. I think we tried to make it work, but that was my first time. So yes, it's my second.
Because I remember so well that first of all, you've been writing fiction and novellas, and you've been writing, that's what you do always, but you had a travel blog, which was really kind of your main source of income, right? And at the time, you had spent a chunk of time really focusing on SEO, and that was really paying off in terms of what the kind of traffic and all the rest of it to your website. Yeah. And then COVID happened. Exactly. And that just ruined everything because no one was traveling.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. And it was hard. It was not hard like, frontline nurses on COVID wards, but it was sobering. And I think I spent about 2 or 3 years, basically when my kids were really young, because I found that fiction became quite hard for me when my kids were young. Just you needed more time, like huge chunks of time to write fiction, or I do anyway. And that you just don't, that's not available when you're primary caregiver of young kids. And then I really focused on the SEO, and actually because I was doing freelance travel writing, or actually freelance writing for other companies and creative businesses. The SEO stuff was important for me to learn and keep learning. So I was applying it more to my blog, and I was at a position where I was with Mediavine for running decent ads with decent income. And I think I had my best month yet, January 2020. And I was like ready to actually chop off a few freelance clients that I didn't really necessarily enjoy working with so much. COVID hit, and the whole travel content creating industry was just on its knees, as was most of little mini industries, niches within the travel industry. But it's funny because now, you have a bit more time for reflection and perspective. I feel like what I was doing in those years worked for my family at that time. And also what I learned, both blogging and freelance writing, definitely helped with my fiction. Like there's just from practical things like writing quickly. Yeah. Like I have a crazy high word per minute count. Through to just like when I need to write direct and in plain English and things like that, I can. yeah, so I try not to have regrets. Regrets, I have a few. But I'm happy to be where I am at now. But of course I do think, oh, if only you just sort of had this focus more years ago, where would you be with the books? But
you couldn't have had that focus at that time. You just couldn't. It's not possible. That's like a parallel universe where that would have happened. I mean, that's the way that I think about it when I think, oh, if only I knew what I knew now when I first started travel blogging, then I would be so successful, because obviously both of us started out relatively early in the UK travel blog scene. But then I'm so glad that I didn't put all my eggs in that basket.
God, yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's true, actually. And when colleagues of mine who are purely travel content, they've had awful few years. And indeed, many have stopped doing it now. And that's really upsetting, because that was everything to them.
Yeah.
So you're right. And actually, in the context of having young children, like, there's a reason I couldn't write fiction then. And so, and actually, because I'm indie publishing at least some of my books, the amount of business knowledge you need for publishing, self-publishing, is bonkers. And that's a side of things, of creative life, that I've never excelled at and never will, to be frank. But I've had to have a certain different kind of brain space to learn those things. And I think, and I'm jumping all over the place here, Lucy, so rein me in whenever you need to. But I don't know about you, but becoming a mother was an incredibly vulnerable experience. Like, it exposed me to so much in myself and of the outside world. And in some ways, what I'm doing now, writing fiction, especially about some of the things I write about, it would have been too much. I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have explored those themes in the same way, because I was already like an open wound just from having children. So yeah, that's another little way to look at it.
I really want to talk about self-publishing as well, because I know nothing about it. Absolutely nothing. I didn't, until I met you. I actually don't think I really knew it was a thing.
Well, I'm going to sound really clever then now, because I know very little, but if you know nothing, then woo. It's changing the traditional publishing industry, which is so interesting for me. When I indie published my first book back in 2013, and it was very formulaic in terms of what you, again, quotation marks, had to do. And there were certain people saying, do it this way. And there wasn't much like scope for doing it differently. And it was like, yeah, do these things and you should be okay. And that's pretty much what I did. And then I did that again with my next two books, which came out the following subsequent years. But then I took a break when I had kids, and I came back to it, and holy guacamole, it has changed. And it's like, it's brilliant, because it's really shown that it is a valid part of the publishing industry, because essentially what traditional publishing is gatekeeping, which is really problematic for lots of different reasons. But it's indie publishing and self-publishing, and there are lots of different models of indie publishing. Of course, there are those who are like me, who just DIY, do it all yourself. But yeah, I hire editors and copy editors, development editors, cover designers, illustrators when I need them, and also sensitivity readers and formatters for the ebooks and paperbacks and all these things. I hire people, but essentially I am publisher and writer. And then you have indie presses, so they're like, often they're groups of writers that get together and publish. I think there's quite a few in Brighton.
Like a co-op.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And they're collaborative that publish books for other indie authors. And then you even have like the crowdfunding model, where you pre-order in advance, and once you have the money, then you spend it on the publishing. And then now you see a lot of the most successful authors, so in the Sunday Times bestseller list, especially in genres, they are hybrid. They hold on to their digital rights, so for ebooks, and then they can sell their paperback.
They can sell that like on their websites or whatever?
Pretty much. Again, there's different models because when you publish with Amazon, and I have a lot of mixed feelings about Amazon. And so when I talk about Amazon, please know that that's true. I'm not advocating for them as a company in any way. However, when it comes to indie publishing, they are really the one and only way to make it big. It is very difficult, even traditionally published, to publish any kind of book without having it on Amazon. And with indie specifically, they offer kind of exclusivity. So like a bit like Amazon Prime, you have Kindle Unlimited where people pay a subscription, and then they have books that are within the subscription that you download for free. And that is how, and then it kind of works out that depending on how many pages are read, authors get a certain percentage of the profits. And that is how a lot of, especially genre fiction, that's how a lot of indie authors are making their money. Yeah, there's lots of different models, but the thing I find fascinating is how it is changing. So now when you go traditionally published, agents and editors and publishers, they expect you to have something similar to the platform of an indie author. And of course, an indie author's platform is how they sell their books. So building that up is how they sell their books. But now traditionally published authors are somewhat expected. And so when they submit a book, that will be looked at. And if you have a good platform, that will help your chances.
I've heard that before from people who have been putting forward a book proposal, and I guess the first person you go to is what, an agent?
It can be, yeah. They do open submissions at publishing houses, but generally agents are a good first step, yeah.
The fact that they expect a platform, I know nothing about publishing, but I don't know about you, but I feel like that's just another way to gatekeep.
100%. 100% it is. And it's representative as well of the publishing industry in the last 5 to 10 years, where, especially at certain times of the year, your bestseller lists are dominated by influencers and celebrities and high-profile people. And I am, as an indie author, I believe anybody and everybody can publish a book, and I want that for everybody. I want the market to be much more open. But you then have, I'm going to use her as an example, and I hope she doesn't mind. But then you've got somebody like Reid, who has been wanting to publish a book for years about her anti-racism work and allyship, and she can't get in. And she has the following, she has the platform.
Yeah, she has a platform,
but she has a, quotation marks again, prickly topic. Yes. And it wasn't until June 2020 that book publishers were willing to talk to her and offer her a deal. And that is happening across the board. And it's not just with, Black authors of color writing about anti-racism. It's also fiction. It's also other areas of nonfiction. And so that's my issue with the traditional publishing model, is that it is being, when you focus too much on a platform or an easy sell, because let's not, sugarcoat this. Publishing is a money-making business. But right now, because of indie publishing, how they make their money and where they make their money is changing and evolving. And it's almost like they're on the back foot a little bit. So yeah, really interesting.
It's fascinating how it's almost iterative, the way that indie publishing became the model that it is now because of traditional publishing.
Yes.
And traditional publishing is having to, because really that's what happened, isn't it? Like,
that's exactly what
you
happened.
Had to find loopholes.
Yeah. For too long, it was too tightly guarded, and it was too white, too male dominated. And there's also a lot of kind of snobbery within it. Which I have been absolutely guilty of myself. And I've had to explore the reasons why. So, for example, I now read a lot more romance, a lot more genre fiction like crime, mystery, thriller. And my latest book is indeed a thriller, suspense thriller. And I don't know why I didn't give myself permission not only to write those books, but to read them. And my only conclusion is that there's classism, but also, misogyny and
there's 100%. Of course there is. I remember Marion Keyes saying it on a podcast years ago. Actually, it wasn't a podcast. It was a YouTube video years and years and years ago. And she said, the fact that chick lit. Mm-hmm. I mean, how fucking patronizing is that? Chick lit. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just grim. There is no equivalent for a man.
No.
Like,
God, no.
Bro lit. Like, there just isn't, is there? There's nothing. No. Chick lit, it's fucking sexism. Of course it is. And, you know, that goes across the board. I remember when I was growing up, Freya North books.
Yes,
which were
I read some of those. They were a girl's name.
I think they were specifically really targeted towards LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
And they were really considered taboo.
Yes.
I remember thinking, no, I can't read that because people will think I might be gay.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually that plays into something I was kind of checking in on Book Talk.
Book Talk is the
book
section of TikTok.
Yeah, there we go. And there's been a bit of a hoo-ha recently because this is one of the crazy things I've had to learn about Amazon. When you publish a book on Amazon, if you put a content warning about your book, they will put it in the Amazon dungeon. So the algorithm will punish you. And I want to assume it's because they are acknowledging, it's an easy way to acknowledge that there's something potentially triggering in a book. So they're trying to protect their readers or whatever, or maybe avoid liability. But, for me, it's essential to have that. Like, it's just, that's how I'm going to publish my books, because there are, you know, I want to keep my readers safe, even within a genre like, suspense and thriller. And I had 2 editors tell me not to do it, but I'm doing it anyway. But anyway, on Book Talk, it's been a bit of a hurrah because authors are resisting giving trigger warnings for books, and readers are saying, no, we really need them. And and other authors are saying, hey guys, you don't need to, it's not difficult. There's a way to do it. So I found a way to do it, just avoiding certain words. But as a consequence, with the trigger warning and things like that, somebody piped up and said, hey, can we no longer say that any books with LGBTQ characters are a trigger?
Yeah.
And that has been happening. And that 100% confirms what you just said. And I was the same. And we can go into this if you want, I don't know. But I came out as bi last year. And I came out to myself about 2 or 3 years ago. And I came out to friends, family and public last year. And that is because of that shame. And I read books with, gay relationships and everything. And I was also, you know, I was in a very, accepting, loving family. And I still felt that like pressure not to be who I am effectively. And all you have to do is watch Friends now, to be honest. If you grew up on Friends or Sex
or just
and the City,
anything from like the noughties.
Yes.
Do you not look back and think, why did I love this?
Yeah.
I feel ashamed of myself because it's so
but it explains a lot.
homophobic.
Yes, but it explains so much to me as somebody who was closeted until their late 30s. It explains ever so much. So, I'm very determined with fiction and just, the way I parent and all these things to like remove those stigmas and that shame. And I don't know how we got here now, Lucy, but hey.
It was me where we were talking about Book Talk and LGBT saying, let's not use
because it's gatekeeping.
The genre.
It's the gatekeeping element. And it is still happening. But the good news is it is changing.
Slowly but surely.
As with everything, unfortunately. But I do believe it is changing. And that's mostly thanks to young readers like on Book Talk and old readers like me who are trying to unlearn all of this rubbish. So, yeah.
So what's your latest book about? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, sure. It's called The Weaker Sex. And it's the second in my series of thrillers that are set in London, and they are, this is where it gets dark, hold on to your hats, they are a team of professional hired killers. But they have a code. And this second book is about the only woman in the group. And it's basically, I'm not going to say too much, but she's a very strong woman who avenges misogyny, I guess, and specifically violent men and violence against women. But she is flawed too, and the way in which she avenges violent men also begs questions. And that was really important to me. This is a spoiler. So if anybody wants to read it, then just turn the sound off for like 10 seconds. She avenges it under the cover of sex work. And so that kind of enabled me to also enter the world of sex work and to understand the huge gross failings of specifically white feminism towards sex workers. And yeah, so that's it. The book is, there's the kind of genre kind of in terms of she has a struggle and she needs to do X, Y, and Z. That's in there, the kind of suspense, the genre box ticking events and plots, but underlying it, there are all these themes, specifically, violence against women, and the failings of white feminism, and then how we treat sex workers in our media, our society, our communities. So it's lots of different layers, but hopefully it works.
Well, I can't wait to read it. So when it comes to research, tell me about that, because when you're researching something that's so dark, like how do you even begin?
So for me, it's normally, and this is how every book begins, not even the dark ones. It's just like an idea or a concept. And this book specifically is really interesting to talk about. And there is an author's note where I explain this in the back of the book, because the version I wrote, I first wrote the first draft, I think I finished it 2017 or 2018. And then my second baby was born. So it went in the cupboard kind of as a result of that. But also because the first draft I wrote was very much like, sexy kick-ass women who are prostitutes and they also kill men. Haha, men are so bad. And yeah, okay, great. That would have, flown off the shelves 30 years ago. But I just knew there was something deeply not right with that perspective and that take on both violence against women and also sex work. So I paused it for many reasons, but my discomfort was definitely up there. And I just started reading about sex work to understand the experience better, to understand the failings of, our institutions and our communities towards sex work, and the stigma and the huge stigma that is attached to sex work. And that also coincided with me doing, not in terms of the two were connected, but at the same time, I was also starting anti-racism training with Nova, before mentioned. And so I realized that was when I also started to dig deep into my understanding of feminism. And you are absolutely one of the biggest voices I think I follow in terms of intersectional feminism. And so it all kind of came together as my unlearning deepened. And so the research for this book was very, very different to other books, but it had to be, because these topics are so multifaceted and sensitive, and I don't like saying this word, but fragile, because I really wanted this book to be, and I put this in the author's note, I wanted it to be an opportunity. I wanted it to be an opportunity to invite the average Jane, because let's be honest, not many men are going to pick up this book, but the average person, let's just say human, let's hope, the average human to pick up this book and to understand, like I did 3-4 years ago, I've got a lot wrong about sex work and I've got a lot wrong about feminism. And, and I really hope that the reviews I've had so far, the feedback I've had, the beta readers and the editors, that is coming across. But I've had to do it in an incredibly sensitive way, because I'm not a sex worker. So it's also very problematic for me to write about sex work when I'm not a sex worker. But I have hopefully also managed to do that because I'm the character. It's first person, the narrator, and she isn't a sex worker herself, but she has proximity to sex workers. So, yeah.
It's a big responsibility. That's that you've put on yourself as well.
Well, it is, but it's so, yeah. And there's probably people who would argue that it shouldn't be me doing it, but I appointed lots of people, lots of readers to lots of books that are specifically about sex work by sex workers. And also I feel like it's not the only theme, it's one of many. And I've also been reading up a lot about what writers of color have been saying in terms of white authors writing about having characters of color, and how that's actually important as long as you do it with sensitivity. Well, you should always get a sensitivity read, and you should work with a person of color to, understand where you have your blind spots, because I have my blind spots as a white person and as a non-sex worker. So it's very important, I think. But like I said, this book is not the oracle, and this book also gives lots of different not versions, but there really isn't just one kind of one plot arc in terms of a sex worker. There's lots of different ways of looking at it. And I also want to kind of highlight that we are in a really interesting time in our social media where online sex work is growing. Oh my God, exponentially, like OnlyFans, and so there are a lot of people who are coming to the sex work industry, and they're doing it blind of the issues that service-based sex workers, so your, women on the street, let's say, how they have been let down. And so this is we're at a time where there's a really good opportunity to change some of these narratives, and to let's really look at that stigma and do what we can to change it. And that is what I want this book to be part of. It's not the Bible. It's not claiming it's not claiming a binary experience. It's just part of a conversation, I hope.
I think, an opportunity is like a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to read it. So what was it? The experience of selling your book. Now, how do you feel about that? Because, I mean, I don't know a single woman, cis or not, that I suppose this podcast is probably for the girls, the gays, and the theys.
Theys, yeah.
I don't know any of us. I don't speak to men, and I don't care if they listen or not. I'm not speaking to you, so if you're here. I don't know a single person that listens to this podcast that will feel like selling. Yeah. That lights me up. I love it. I love selling my stuff.
Yeah.
But to do it when you're an indie publisher, regardless whether you're publishing through the traditional kind of model or not, you still have to be the voice and be rolled out at, publishing time and be like, hey, my book's here, blah, 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 blah. So you're going to have to sell regardless. But when you're an indie publisher, you've got so much more invested in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like
definitely.
Financially as well as everything else.
Yeah.
How do you go about doing it?
Well, that's what I'm learning, to be totally honest. I right now, I'm trying to pivot the following I had from my travel blog to now use that, my newsletter, my blog, and to a certain extent social media, to try and sell the book. And so far that is resulting in people unfollowing me, and that is completely fine because I'm changing, and they signed up to hear tips about Amsterdam or traveling with kids, and that's just not going to be happening. So that's okay. And honestly, like I said, I'm at a time in my life, where I'm okay with that. But a couple of years ago, that would have shattered my precious little ego. And I now see it. I'm enjoying the beauty of being transient right now. The opportunity that is there for me as I evolve, I guess. And I'm using very hippy dippy words here, aren't I? But, I'm very excited by the change. And I'm lucky to be in a headspace where that's possible, because like I said, it hasn't always been. So in terms of selling my book, I'm learning, and I'm a knowledge junkie, which is why things like researching books is so much an enjoyable part of the process. So I'm always learning. I'm like in writers groups. I read books about the business side of things. I follow blogs. I follow podcasts. I ask questions now, which I also never used to do. So I'm slowly starting to get a kind of little group of other authors, some indie, some traditionally published, and we talk to each other. So for example, last week, when it was launch day, I don't know what it's like for your courses or things like that, but it's just the worst day ever. And everyone's so excited and lovely and sending me messages, but it's the vulnerability hangover is epic. And yet you do have to do what you just said. You have to show up and you have to push it. And so when I published my collection of poetry, November 2020, I think that was, oh my God, I was supposed to do a live and I bailed and I just felt physically sick and I couldn't do it. And so I was able to use that experience to prepare a little bit better for this time. But even so, I did a live and I did a reading and it was like 11 minutes and then I logged off and went to bed. Like, you know, and just maybe hopefully next time I will stay a bit longer and I will be able to be a bit more, visible, I guess, and comfortable in my own skin. But so I talked to these other authors, and actually you mentioned Lauren Elcroft. She was one of them, and she said, I don't know any author. I don't know any author who feels good on their launch day. So that was reassuring because I thought, oh my God, this would be the happiest day of my life. But it's a lot. It's a lot. You feel very I always say people reading my books is like them going through my knicker drawer.
Of course, yeah.
Which, you know, what kink is that, hey? I mean, but but selling, I'm still learning is my honest answer. But I know now, and again, this is something that's taken me a long time to learn, is that I have to be enthusiastic about my books. And in order for me to be enthusiastic about them, they have to be a bit good. And and so that's what I really work hard to achieve. And honestly, I'm very lucky that I enjoy that side of things. So I literally get lost in these little worlds of fake people who fall in love and, you know, shag each other and kill each other and shout at each other. And I absolutely love it. I had a lot of imaginary friends as a kid, you can probably tell. Yeah.
Do you think that, and feel free to not answer if this is uncomfortable, but do you think that coming out has changed your perspective on sharing online and also selling? Because like you say, when it comes to your books, that's like your heart, like that's years of like blood, sweat and tears, and your imagination that is vulnerable. It is like someone going through your knicker drawer because that's all it's all stuff that you've created. It's like, hey, come and look at this world I've created that you might not like and you will have opinions on, and I'm putting it out there so that you can tell me your opinion in like Amazon reviews or whatever. But when you become the reason that I think of, you know, that I'm making the parallel between coming out is because I know that becoming a mum for me, like you mentioned, was really a shift in like, I'm a different person.
Yeah, I think that the two parallels for me, which may or may not answer your question, with coming out and also this new shift in focus on my books, is this kind of, for want of a better expression, life is too short and you only really live it when you live in your truth. And so, the vulnerability and the vulnerability element, 100%, I couldn't have done, I don't think, without becoming a mum, because that taught me I can be deeply vulnerable. Like I'm so, you know, viscerally uncomfortable in my vulnerability and still come through it. You know, I won't even say okay, because I had an awful time with postnatal depression and things like that. And I still have triggers from that first year of motherhood. But I do know that is my truth and I have to own it. And the same way, coming out as bi, I had to do it. It was, and there were other things going on, and definitely COVID started. Before COVID, I think I was quite happy just being myself and knowing it for myself. But then there was something about COVID that just made me realize this could all end. Yeah, I think we all had to check our own mortality when you know, you're in the middle of a pandemic. And I think I'm very privileged in that was probably other people have had to do that earlier in their life. And that for me, that was the first time that I really fully appreciated how I'm not immortal. Oh, crap, you know, like, So I had to, and also, again, I'm bringing it up again, but doing anti-racism and unlearning stuff about feminism and sex work, like these things all made me realize I had to be who I am. And yeah, and it speaks volumes that I've had like a few shitty comments about it, and I've had some very strange questions. But overwhelmingly, the response has been loving and accepting and celebrating. And I would say at least 50 or 60% have been like, yeah, Frankie, we know, but, but that's fine, you know, and it's all validating and affirming. But you know, looping it back to motherhood, the other thing, and again, with the books, this is also true of the books. I just got to a point where my eldest is 6, and we live in the Netherlands, and he's already started doing like sex and relationships education at school. And he knows families with 2 dads, 2 mums, 1 mum, 1 dad. He's aware of different models of family. And he started asking me questions like, oh, do you like boys and do you like girls in that way? That's his way of saying it. And I said, and I just had to start saying, do you know what? I like both. I like both in that way. And I just need him to grow up knowing it's the most normal thing in the world, because I feel emotional now, because that was what was missing for me. And it would just eat me alive if both of my kids didn't grow up like that. Like and then with the books, I am very privileged that I have an opportunity to not earn as much. My partner has his own business. And so I can focus on the books a bit more. And not necessarily, I'm almost definitely will not make a profit this year, but I'm very privileged that that's okay. But I'm doing it so that I can show my kids, yeah, this is what mummy wants to do with her life, and she's going to really just go for it. So yeah, it's a little bit of both, a little bit of a lot of things, but there are a lot of parallels, and I certainly feel like coming out gave me permission to do the books. And I've actually now I'm writing also contemporary romance, and I've kind of made this little commitment to myself that every book I write is going to have bi rep. And weirdly, The Weaker Sex also does. But this is the stupid thing, Lucy. I wrote that book 4 years ago, and it's the main character's bisexual. And I'm like, Frankie.
Huge rainbow flag there that you made.
I'm really good at missing them. Yeah.
Well, that is, testament to the fact that it is basically your knicker drawer. Like, this is your like, it is so part of an author's innards.
Yeah,
their books,
it is.
Even when it's not, obviously. Yeah. Even when you're not a sex worker, you're not your character. But it's all the different parts of yourself come out.
Yeah, definitely.
I do not have a book in me. I know that people say everyone has a book in them, but I'm just not.
No, but if you think about the content you have produced and created over the years, that's many books, Lucy. Like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
It's just now we have a different outlets. So I think that saying is quite old, but actually what it means is that we all have a story to tell, or stories to tell in whatever form. And we are now just sharing them in different ways, I think.
You're right. My ADHD brain cannot sit and focus on a book. No way.
No.
I can only do like short bursts of stuff, like really intense focus for, I don't know, an hour. And then that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. And that's totally fine. I wish some days, that's how my brain worked, because when it like hits 4:00 and I have to go and do pickup, and I'm like, no, I'm currently on a beach sipping margaritas with a sexy Irish man. I don't want to go do the school pickup. Yeah.
Talking of school pickup, it's like a bit of a last question.
Sure.
How do you feel about it? Because I just put something on my Instagram this morning. I hate the school run. Like, I never imagined I would hate it as much as I do.
What do you hate? Talk me through it.
So I hate the regimented nature of you have to be here at 8:40. Gates open at 8:46 and then they close at 9:01. And I really struggle with the intensity of like getting out the house,
God.
Wearing uniform. Like, I don't know why I'm air quoting because it is uniform, but wearing this prescribed uniform. I'm a rebel, right? So I don't like any of that. But also Anais' school, it's so cliquey. And the mums hate me. And I hate that because I just want to be liked. I've got a resting bitch face, but I just want people to like me.
It's probably because they think you're like the cool one. And so you're a little intimidating and, so I have to admit, I don't have to, well, I do have the getting kids dressed in the morning. I swear I'm like seconds away from an aneurysm every morning.
Yes. Yeah.
It is the most stressful thing. In fact, it's so funny you should say that because last night my partner and I were talking and I'm like, is it okay to get therapy for getting my kids ready to leave the house? Because I genuinely feel like there is a breakdown in my brain and I just can't do it without getting very stressed. Anyway, so we do have that, but we live opposite my son's school.
Oh,
so we don't.
I'm so jealous.
So we have some leeway in terms of how late we can be, how much.
You can just shove him out the door.
Yeah, well, we're close to that. We are close to that. But yeah, it's like, how much shouting can I do today? No, and then he doesn't have to wear a uniform.
No.
It's in that good old Netherlands, Montessori education. They are free to be who they are, which I love. But he still has to put his clothes on, and 9 times out of 10 they're the wrong way round, and it's it's fine. But the school gates, so it's a bit for me. I find it's quite intense social, like few minutes, isn't it? And now I know enough people. This is what I'm also like at parties, and I kind of like just gravitate to them and cling to them. Where really I should make a bit more effort.
Why? Life's too short.
Yeah, but I'm a people pleaser, so I'm a good girl.
So that means that you shouldn't.
No, true.
You should do the opposite.
True. Yeah, it is, but I don't like pickup for me because our pickup is at 2:15. So it completely chops the day in half.
Mate.
Yeah, but it's fine. And we also have like weird COVID where we all have to stand outside the school gate, and it's all a bit like,
yeah, us too.
You have to like rush off because otherwise you get run over and things like that. So I don't. But yeah, mum friends. I'm selective. I have to be honest. I have good mum friends, and I have good friends who now have become mums. So I don't feel that overwhelming urge to be mates with everyone. But I also have to say I'm really lucky that I just pretend I don't speak Dutch.
Oh, yeah. So maybe I'll pretend I don't speak English.
Yeah, seriously. Do you speak Arabic? I mean, like
Shway, which means, do you know it?
No,
a little bit.
It sounded really convincing.
It means a little bit.
Oh, great. Shway. Oh, I love that.
Shway.
Oh, it's such a beautiful language. Oh my gosh. I don't.
Maybe I'll just start speaking Arabic.
Yeah, why
I can
not?
speak better German than I can speak Arabic.
Oh, good.
Good.
Sehr gut. Sehr good.
Okay, so you feel similar to me on a school pickup.
It's just a forced social interaction, which is just not fun for me. No,
me neither.
Does Anais like school?
Does she? It's difficult to tell. I think so overall. Yeah, but it's a bit too soon to tell.
It's hard. School transition is really hard, I think, for mums and kids. But I find now it's like I'm really happy he's at school. Like I really feel. It's because they start their own little life, and they pull away a bit, which is hard at the beginning. But now I like the human he's becoming, which, probably couldn't say that in our last chat.
Yeah, maybe not. Oh, thank you so much for your time. It was lovely to catch up.
Thank you. It was, really, really good. Thanks so much. Great questions.